I'm sure, as an English language learner, you must have asked this question to yourself that why cannot you speak in English fluently? Whereas there are thousands of people who are able to speak in English fluently and confidently. But what actually you are doing wrong that is stopping you to speak in English fluently and confidently and effortlessly? So in this video, we are going to discuss 5 important reasons that is stopping you from speaking in English fluently and making you a confident English speaker who can speak in front of anybody at any given time without being judged or without making hundreds of mistakes. So one of the most important reasons that is preventing you from speaking in English fluently is lack of exposure and immersion. I know you have heard it quite many times that you have to immerse yourself in English if you want to speak in English fluently. And it does not only apply when it comes to learning English, but no matter what you want to learn, if you do not immerse yourself in that particular thing, if you do not get the exposure of that particular thing, you have very less chances to get better at it in a short duration. So, if you want to speak in English fluently, you will have to get exposure as much as you can. You will have to completely immerse yourself. Basically, you will have to make English the part of your life by following on several steps that we all know, such as reading, listening, speaking, writing, thinking. There are so many things you can do to expose yourself to this language and immerse yourself. Because whether you believe it or not, but input such as exposure or immersion, whatever you want to call it, is the most essential yet the powerful steps. And this is one of the most important things, but people often neglect this one step because many people would be like, I do not have the right environment, I do not have the exposure. I totally get your point. I know that not everyone is privileged enough to be born in a place where they can find people who speak in English or they can find people who always communicate in this language. Because most of us are coming from a place where we mostly speak in our native language. So it's very hard for us to find the exposure to get the right environment and the people with whom we can practice. But you have one thing, we are living in the most privileged environment, I feel. Sure, you might not have the people to communicate with or to hear or see this language. But I genuinely feel that with the help of internet, you can make your life a lot easier. And I feel that now in today's world, in today's digital world, learning any language has become has become a lot easier. Back then situations were not like that. If you want to speak in English or if you want to learn any language, you had to be surrounded with those people who speak that language. But now, with the help of internet, you can connect with anyone. And when I say that you have to expose yourself to this language, you have to completely immerse yourself with this language, I do not really mean that you have to spend time with those people, but you can do so many things. You can listen in English, you can watch YouTube videos, there are so many movies you can watch if you're interested in. You can read books. And the best thing is that if you do not have books, now you have the advantage to read articles, to read anything on the internet. You can read posts, you can read caption, you can read the subtitles. There are so many things you can read, as well as you can practice with other co-learners who also want to learn English, who are willingly ready to help you to and practice with you. So I don't think it should be a barrier anymore. So if you really want to speak in English fluently, then make sure that you are completely immersing yourself. It's not that you are practicing for 10 minutes and then you come back after 2 or 3 days. No, this is not how things are supposed to work. You will have to practice consistently so that you can get better at it faster. Number two reason why you are not able to speak in English fluently yet is fear of making mistakes. I think this is how our mind is wired. This is how we are supposed to be like. Most of the time, if we do not perform well, or even though we have all the knowledge, still we are always scared that what if people are going to think of me? What people are going to say about me? The constant fear of being judged, or fear of making mistakes, or fear of being laughed at. But I genuinely feel that, and this is something I'm saying from my personal experience, that all the things I've learned so far is because I was ready to make mistakes. I was ready to be laughed at. I was ready to be judged. And I still do get judged, but it's okay. I mean, I don't feel bad anymore because I have learned one thing, that without making mistakes, I cannot learn anything. And that's what you have to do. And yeah, it's not something you have to do any external thing. It's all about your mind. You have to keep reminding yourself that it's okay if you make mistakes. It's not a big deal, and you can get better at it just by making mistakes. So I feel that once the fear of judgment or fear of making mistakes is reduced, the progress will be smoother and you are going to be super and amazing fluent English speaker. So please, if you are still scared that people are going to laugh at you because you make mistakes, you don't have to. Because in my opinion, I don't think that there are so many people who make mistakes, sorry, who make fun of your mistakes. I mean, at least those people are never going to make fun of you who are also learning English. So I would recommend you one thing, that practice in an environment where you have supportive people, where you have supportive community. And there are so many platforms where you can practice speaking in English, and most of them are for free. So you can join any of them and practice without making mistakes or without having the fear of making mistakes. Number three, and this is one of the most important steps people neglect, and that what stops them from speaking in English fluently, is insufficient practice. I know that you have focused on all the other steps as much as you could. You watched one movie every single day. You listened to podcasts for more than 2 hours. You have written a lot of journals, but you do not practice enough. See, practicing speaking in English is a lot different from following other steps. When you're reading, when you're listening or watching, that is the whole different thing. But when you are practicing, this is one of the steps that is going to change your entire game. I genuinely feel that many people who are not able to speak in English fluently is because they are not practicing enough. Just don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you're not practicing enough, but by saying this, I mean if you have been practicing for a long duration as much as you could, and you are spending more time speaking in English than focusing on other steps, you will surely get better at it. And if you are doing it, I'm sure you would have noticed the progress you have made over time and all the things you have done so far. So if you quickly want to improve your English and want to become the master of this language, please focus on speaking as much as you can, because if you focus on this part adequately, then your journey is automatically going to be smoother and you are going to sound professional. Another important step which has become the hinder of your progress is shyness, or you can say lack of confidence. I know that there are many people who are naturally shy, or they do not have enough confidence because of their upbringing or because of the kind of environment they were in. And I was one of them. I was no exceptional. I remember I was a horrible person. I mean, I wish I could explain myself with words, but I can't. And it's not been a long time. I mean, just 2 years ago, I was a kind of person who was extremely shy. I did not even have I did not even have courage to talk to someone who was sitting next to me. That kind of person. But when I started realizing about the uh, loses, about the loss, about the loss or loses, about but when I started realizing about the loss I was having because I was shy, I decided that no, now I have to get out of it. I have to be confident. And I feel when you keep doing certain things which you're not supposed to do, when you keep putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, that confidence will occur naturally. And you don't have to do it, you don't have to put external efforts. Just do uncomfortable things and automatically you will get better at it. So I feel a lot of people are not able to speak in English fluently because either they are shy or they do not have enough confidence. And the best way to gain confidence is to do what makes you feel uncomfortable. I know it sounds easier than done, but trust me, this is the only way you have to boost your confidence and just reduce the amount of shyness you have. I mean, there's nothing wrong to be shy. I mean, I feel, but having confidence is the most important thing when it comes to speaking in English. So please mark my words and try to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. There are many times when you feel uncomfortable even when you're speaking to yourself, because talking in a language which is not your mother tongue is a whole different thing. I know you feel uncomfortable, but keep practicing and eventually you will get better at it. And the last yet the most neglected step is not having proper list of vocabulary or having good information about the grammar. Now, I will explain both steps briefly. So, most of the time, we do not have enough vocabulary. We always have limited vocabulary, and that's why we are not able to speak English fluently. By the way, I'm not telling you to have the advanced list of vocabulary, not at all. But at least if you have been deciding that you have to speak in English fluently, you must have at least 50 to hundreds of vocabulary that can make you sound impressive. Now, don't get me wrong by the numbers I have given, it is just an example. By saying this, I mean if you really want to speak in English and if you do not want to get stuck. I think most people struggle with this issue that they get stuck while speaking. So I feel the only way you have left to solve this issue is learn new words as much as you can. Because if you have limited vocabulary, you are automatically going to get stuck. But if you know the synonyms or if you know the alternative of that one word which you are not getting right now in your mind, then you could use that and express your ideas, express your thoughts, and whatever you are thinking. And another thing I feel is grammar. Sure, I have spoken about not learning grammar quite many times, and I am just believing in that till now. I do believe that you don't really need to learn grammar, but I genuinely feel that you need to know the basic grammars, at least tenses, a couple of tenses like simple past tense, simple present tense, present continuous tense, these kind of things, and models. These are the two things I have learned just by reading, like cramming thing. I did learn them, and rest of the grammar I adapted naturally. So if you know these if you know these rules of grammar, and if you keep focusing on input by listening, watching, reading, you are automatically going to get better at it. And if you have become good at grammar and vocabulary, you are going to sound way better than you think. I hope from now on you are going to focus on these 5 steps and not making such mistakes that is becoming the hinder of your progress. I hope I could give you some valuable information, and thank you so much for watching this video. I will be back with an interesting and amazing content very soon. Bye bye.